As you know, callers, this line is always open to whoever wishes to call. The PM calls from time to time. I think he's calling now. Let's take this call. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon. This is Ralph.
Prime Minister.
And P. John and Lansford.
Good afternoon to you.
And good afternoon to the listeners at home and abroad. I take up your invitation to address yet again this subject of Vincentians who are overseas who wish to come home.
Yes.
I want to restate a fundamental principle. Vincentians who are overseas at the time of COVID, we would welcome them home if they want to come home. We are not having any Vincentian who wants to come home to put a barrier against them coming home, that the airport is closed against them, the ports are closed against them, that we're not taking them home. We're not adopting the position of some other governments across this world. Citizenship counts for something. At the same time, given the nature of the pandemic, there are certain protocols which are required to be followed. We had established some of them before, and there are others which had been put in place by the medical authorities and given the approval by the government. Now, backdrop. From our experience and from the experience of other countries, other places, we know that cruise ships have been a significant locale of COVID. I think we can all agree on that. Indeed, if you notice in the list of countries or locales where you have which the WHO would put out, or which any other reputable listing would have, you will notice that some cruise ships are also in the listings where you have countries. You have noticed that, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Okay, good. But that is because they are recognized as a significant locale. What has been our experience in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and which helps to inform some of what we do? We have, from one cruise ship, 32 persons came in and they were put in quarantine. 4 of them had symptoms and tested positive. Those which didn't have symptoms, we decided to test 29 of them. And out of that number, which had no symptoms, 3 of them tested positive. In other words, out of 36, there are 7 of them tested positive. 4 which had symptoms, 3 which had no symptoms of COVID. Lansford, you're the statistician. We are about 20% therefore of that cluster of 36. Am I not correct? 7 out of 36, almost 20%. 10% of the number, however, were asymptomatic. Further facts. There are 2 persons who came in on the 25th of March from the United States, from a cruise ship, from that very cruise ship. I'm not calling the name of the company, I'm not calling the name of the cruise ship, because it is not in my place to put any slur against any particular cruise ship. I'm dealing with certain basic facts. Two of those persons, up to now, who were asymptomatic, up to yesterday, two persons who came in on cruise ships who were asymptomatic, who tested positive at first, have tested 4 times since then, and they still test positive for the virus. Are you with me?
Following you very clearly.
I'm talking, check the 25th to the 25th of March to the end of April. That's 5 weeks. We're into the beginning of May. Person just got tested since May started. So you're going into 6 weeks now. So the fact that you have been on the cruise ship for 4 weeks or 6 weeks, even if you were asymptomatic from the beginning and you remain asymptomatic, it does not mean that you would not test, you may not test positive, because we have a hypothesis, which I repeated this over and over for anyone who wants to listen, that from a cluster of 36, well, from a cluster of 29 who are asymptomatic, who came from a high-risk group, that is to say, from a cruise ship, they're tested positive. And 2 persons continue to be tested positive, even after you did their 2 obligatory tests to see if they'll get negative. They didn't. Then a 3rd, and in one case, another one a 4th. And they're still positive. What does that tell you? It tells you that you have to be careful when the person is returning, that you must have the person tested there before they leave the ship. And in St. Vincent and the Grenadines for them to undergo quarantine. So the argument that you're on the ship, you have been quarantined for 14 days, or indeed a month, more than likely, you are either asymptomatic, or if you've developed the antibodies, but there still remains the prospect that at least 10% may, and not say would, may test positive for the virus. Can such a person transmit it? In the science, the jury is out on it. There are persons who tell you highly unlikely. But there are cases where it has happened. There are some people who will tell you no. But the science doesn't support that. Are you again with me?
We are following clearly.
All of this is important background. Now, let's go to the CDC guidelines, the Center for Disease Control. By the way, if persons want to be having information on what's happening on cruise ships, I want them to read. I ask them just to Google. What I do, I type in COVID-19 and cruise industry. and you see a whole set of articles. Miami Herald in particular, the well-known journalist Sarah Blasky, Nicholas Nehemas, and Taylor Dolven. The Miami Herald has put a team specifically to address the issue of COVID-19 and the cruise industry, and including the treatment of crew on the cruise ships. You can look it up.
Yes.
I am not spoiling for any fight with any cruise ship. All I want is the sailors who are the seafarers who are there, that we get them home. They want to come home. But we make sure that all the protocols are in place, and everybody who has a particular responsibility discharges his or hers or its responsibility properly. That is what I'm concerned about. I am in this business of defending the health, the safety of the seafarers and of their families and of the communities and of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And basic in this decision-making process for their health and safety are facts and right reason. Noise-making is not going to persuade me one way or the other. No. Let's look at what the CDC protocol, the updated one, called Interim Guidance for Mitigation of COVID-19 Among Cruise Ship Crew during the period of the no-sail order. This was April the 21st, 2020 update. I want to read for you what it says as regard disembarking asymptomatic crew for repatriation. Let us assume that the vast majority of them are asymptomatic. But remember, I just said to you, we have evidence of 10% of asymptomatic persons from a high-risk locale, namely a cruise ship, that we have had a 10% positive testing by the PCR. Using that principle and taking into account that you have already 2 cases in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which are still outstanding, came from cruise ships, who are asymptomatic, who came on the 25th of March. And up to today, after 4 and 3 tests respectively, they are still testing positive. And I repeat, they are persons, even though they're asymptomatic after such a period of time and they still test positive, the science tells you that there is the possibility that you can get it. It's not a high probability, but you have to nevertheless still manage that risk. You're with me?
Yes, we are. We are following you.
Good. Let us go and look at the CDC guidelines, Center for Disease Control of the U.S., regarding disembarking asymptomatic crew for repatriation. It reads, under the no-sail order, cruise lines must develop and implement a comprehensive plan to prevent, detect, respond, and contain COVID-19 on cruise ships for both passengers and crew within 7 days of publication in the Federal Register. Until all elements of the plan as outlined in the no-sail order are addressed satisfactorily, cruise ships should not request to disembark asymptomatic crew unless directed by the United States Coast Guard in consultation with the Center for Disease Control. If a request to disembark crew is approved by the United States Coast Guard and the Center for Disease Control, these are the following things. I only want to read a few of them for you. A repatriation of crew members should occur by foreign government or industry chartered private transport or flights with measures in place to ensure those involved in transport are not exposed. Such measures must include, and the first one there, cruise ship operators must adhere to any testing requirements of receiving countries for repatriated crew. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a receiving country. Notice what it says. The CDC says, that the cruise ship operators must adhere to any testing requirements of the receiving countries for the repatriated crew. We have our own protocols, and I'll come to that. And they are not onerous protocols. It goes on here to say, cruise ship operators must instruct disembarking crew members to stay home for 14 days and continue to practice social distancing after reaching their destination. So when persons say that because they're there already for 14 days, if they come into Port Kingstown or go to the international airport, they must go straight to their homes. Notice what it says. Cruise ship operators must instruct disembarking crew members to stay home for 14 days and continue to practice social distancing after their destination, after reaching their destination. And another issue here, which I will touch on a little later when I speak about our own situation in St. Vincent Grenadines. It says, before disembarking crew, cruise ship operators must give 72 hours advance notice to the local and state health departments with jurisdiction for A, the seaport, and B, the state and county or city of residence for any disembarking crew. So you have to give us in St. Vincent and Grenadines also 72 hours. Minimum. You with me?
Following.
Good. Let's come to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I have been advised that we have in the region of 2,000 Vincentians working on cruise ships overseas. An agency which is responsible for cruise ships in this country advised me that you have about 1,300 on Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. We said it might be a little less, but that is a ballpark number. Remember, at one time we had far more, But within recent times, the cruise lines have been hiring a lot of Filipinos, people from the Philippines, other parts of Asia, Thailand, Vietnam, and the like, and Eastern Europe. The persons from those countries, I've been advised, seem to have less strong insistence on certain minimum standards than our crewmen from the Caribbean. And two big sources are Jamaica, which is the largest, and for us in the OECS, and Barbados is St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Some of the places have very small numbers. We have fairly large numbers. And in this case, there's one group here of 300 thereabouts who want to come. Now, what are our guidelines? Our guidelines, our protocols were updated last on the 20th, and they subsist. The 20th of April. That's the day before the cruise, before the update from CDC in the United States. Conditions. This is the document from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Conditions and information required for the repatriation of Vincentian crew persons. You have to give some basic information. Total number of persons to be repatriated, mode of arrival by boat or plane, full name, date of birth, passport number, contact number, and address in departing country. 4, health certificate issued by National Health Authority of the country of departure, including details of a person's current health status, their exposure to any COVID-19 positive or suspected cases, any objective screening for COVID-19, and they have to name the date and the facility. Address of the proposed site of 14 to 21 days quarantine. A contact number of person residing where the person proposes to stay in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Or who can facilitate the inspection of the person's proposed quarantine site. 7, commitment of repatriating company or individual to pay for the accommodation of those persons who don't have an appropriate quarantine site. And the repatriating company having secured an alternative site, it has to be approved by the Ministry of Health. No. You remember the CDC guidelines said that let me read it already. The cruise ship operators must adhere to any testing requirements of any receiving countries for repatriated crew. Mm-hmm. Remember that one?
Yes.
We said, listen, the cruise ship can't just stamp it and say that they have good health. We need the details of the person's current health status, whether they have been opposed to COVID-19 or suspected cases. And look, tell me whether you have screened. And in fact, we are encouraging you to screen with a rapid test for COVID-19. If you don't screen there, we'll have to use up our screening kits down here. We don't have as many as we should have. And just assume if 1,000 were to come, or a first batch from one source of 300. You see the challenge? Now, one of the reasons why we put to tell us where you intend to be quarantined. I've gotten several text messages, several emails from persons from cruise ships. So Prime Minister, when we come back, we have a good home. I would like to stay inside I'd like to do my quarantine in the home. Well, that's not for me to determine. Every time I get those, I pass them on to the team, the chief medical officer and the medical officer of health. Because we have people who go out to check the homes to see whether or not they are suitable to be quarantined. There are some persons who want to come home have indicated that their place is not suitable. And I'll come to that shortly. No. And when they arrive here, there's a protocol how they depart if they come by sea, if they bring the vessel and want to leave them here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the vessel will berth at the cruise ship terminal Kingston. Disembarkment will be in groups of 10 or more if possible. Hand hygiene will be enforced. Photo identification is required for all seamen and women. Area for screening will be sanitized after each group is screened. screening will include probing for symptoms and temperature check. Obviously, if they were tested just before they have left, they leave the cruise ship, and they follow the protocols of the CDC, we wouldn't have to do a test on them here. As soon as they arrive, we'll do tests while they're here. Obviously, if they have symptoms, they will be given a test right away, but taking into account that they're asymptomatic, we manage that risk. The health authorities manage it in the way in which they consider the protocols can be done. And then, after they're screened, the persons will go into a government facility, will be boarded on agreed transport to await departure. The government facility will be that facility which the Ministry of Health has approved. It doesn't mean a government facility in the sense that the government own it or the government renting it. And there's a disembarkment protocol by air. Now, up to today, Royal Caribbean has not sent for the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, sent to Vincent, who is the person named, who is the person who deals with cruise ships as the person who heads the Port Authority. Royal Caribbean, and I specify this because they have the most of our seafarers, they have not sent yet the names of the persons who they want to repatriate. They haven't sent anything with their medical records. They haven't sent any place, the name of anybody where we can go and look, where the health authorities here can go and look at the homes to see whether they are suitable. Nothing. Zero. You hear me? There are only two. Up to last evening, only 2 cruise ships has sent any information to Vincentian at the Port Authority, and very limited information. They have just sent the names of the persons to be repatriated, not the other information that we require. Though they say according to Vincent, that they will send them because they have the protocols. That is to say, 25 persons from a cruise ship somewhere nearby in the region here, operated by Disney, and a cruise ship which is in the harbor at Southampton. You all never hear about this one before. With 45 Vincentians aboard, operated by TUI, which came down through the Thompson Group in England. That's the same ship. Marella Discovery 2, which had 43 Jamaicans, where the Jamaicans didn't allow them to land.
Oh, okay.
And then went to Portugal, and they got refuge in Southampton, in England. We didn't know we had people aboard that, because nobody told us. By the way, on the 7th of April, Dr. Friday told me in Parliament, when we're talking face to face, that about the cruise ship people, and also very much so those who work on rigs, oil rigs, who call him, his constituents, and tell him that they want to come home and see if government could assist. I say, well, tell me whom I need to contact for these people, for the oil rigs. Up to now, I've not received any information of that kind from Dr. Friday. Maybe the time is too short since April the 7th to now to get the information. But that is nonsense, by the way. When we began here, the discussion started let me just emphasize here and now that the latest information we have is that the Royal Caribbean, that they have not yet, because that ship apparently is somewhere in U.S. waters, they are the persons they want to send. I don't know if they're on one vessel or more than on one vessel. They have not yet cleared a plan with the CDC and the U.S. Coast Guard. So any question of they being repatriated is premature. They haven't crossed that hurdle up there yet. So when anybody says it's Ralph holding them, I'm not doing that at all. I want to see them come home. But while the cruise ship operators doing what they're doing, try to have their plan or whatever it is, and that plan has either not been done or has not been approved. I read in the press, in some of these articles I tell you about, say that some of the lawyers are saying, well, they want them to sign certain things which they're not, with CDC, which they're not signing. The newspaper article in Miami carried that in the Miami Herald. Then CDC refutes, saying, no, that's not so. They didn't. These are their guidelines. They're not forcing anybody to do anything. And then Royal said they didn't tell the journalists that. There's a back and forth. Who said what? Mm-hmm. That is all background noise as far as I'm concerned. The basic thing is CDC has not approved any plan for persons to disembark the ships. Not just Vincentians, other persons too. Mm-hmm. You can check all the other countries. Now what happened? While they were clearly working with CDC to see what they can do, early o'clock, as early as April 13th or thereabouts, we got Gonsalves Robertson at the airport, who is the CEO at the airport, got a communication from Swift Air. And Swift Air had sent this to them on Monday the 13th. Swift Air ground handling request. Good morning. Swift Air would like to request ground handling services for 2 live in flights bringing nationals back home. Looks like it will be full flights, 150 passengers each going down, but we do not have the actual passenger count yet. These charters are Royal Caribbean Cruise Line employees. We are moving home. They have all had health checks, no symptoms, and we will be given a health check form with the manifest. Please acknowledge receipt of email and availability to accommodate all flights. At this time, we are waiting for the government entities for the pertaining permits and approvals. Well, nothing came of this because when Royal Caribbean was contacted, they said they know we are ready. So this was premature. So this was left as it is. Yes. We wanted to know what was happening. Then on the 27th of April at 1:38 p.m., Sunny Rivera at flyaero.com send something to an email to Gonsalves Robertson at the airport and copy it to Roger Duncan. You know who that is? Chief Medical Officer. Yes. Medical Officer of Health. Donna Bascom, who is part of the task force, part of the Health Services Subcommittee, and Andrea Bess at the airport. Andrea Bess is the Director of Airport Services. She has to give clearance in the air. Subject, Swift Air Ground Handling Request. Good afternoon. This is what Sandy Vieira says. The contract to bring nationals home is almost complete. Notice, almost complete. Below, please find the updated schedule to the original request. Remember, there was an original request on the 13th. Please advise if it can still be handled at the updated times and dates. Thank you. Notice the date when they sent it. The 27th of April at 1:38 p.m. But they were proposing to come at the estimated time of arrival was close to 11 o'clock on the 30th. No. Carcel got in touch with me and told me about it. So I asked if the health people knew. She said yes. I called Bishan. I said, Bishan, what is the situation here? Do we have all the protocols in place? Bishan said, no, nobody has told me anything about this. He said, I'm in touch with Federico, who was a person at Royal Caribbean. He didn't tell me anything that Swift Air wanted to come. So I said, well, get in touch with the people at Royal Caribbean. This is the email he sent me on April the 28th at 10:59 a.m. I'm talking about Bishan. Dear sir, further to our conversation, contact with Captain Hernan Zini, Vice President, Port Operation, Royal Caribbean. Captain Zini was referred to me by Mr. Andre Posada, Government Relations, Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, as the new contact person following the departure of Mr. Federico Denton. I have been in contact with Captain Zini this morning, April the 28th, and he has confirmed that Royal Caribbean has not received approval for the disembarking of the crew members from the CDC. Additionally, Royal Caribbean has not repatriated any of the crew members to any Caribbean destination following the new no-sail order dated the 9th of April 2020. And then he put the contact information for Captain Zini. And then later that day, or it might have been the next day, Bishan sent this for me from his. This is a WhatsApp message which Captain Zini sent him. Hello, John. We will send you a letter with the latest information. The current thinking is to do the repatriation by ship. This will take a few weeks before we can even depart from Florida. As soon as we draft our plan, we will send a letter with all relevant details and a formal request to conduct the repatriation. You understand now? So everybody who having whatever video talking as though they're important, and people who talking on radio and all sort of things, and leaders of the opposition who talking off the top of their head. The last communication, and Bishan has been in touch with Captain Zini since then. The last communication, after the one where I say they're coming by air, Zini says, no. The current thinking is that we're not coming by air anymore. In fact, Zini had told John, absolutely not. He said Swift Air was premature. Obviously, Swift once they had contacted Swift to do a contract now. But nothing work out because, as you notice, Swift said that their contract is nearly being, what the word they use? What the word she used? Said that yes, the contract to bring home that is almost complete. Royal didn't complete the contract with Swift either. And I explained all of this. I said all of this in a talk, in a call on a radio program with WFM. And Kenton Chance reported in the body of what I said, what I'm saying here. But yet the headline was that I deny the flight to come. I didn't deny the flight to come. I said any flight which come would be denied if you don't follow the protocols. But we didn't even reach the stage to deny this one. You understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
No. Mission was working with Federico. And my understanding from the beginning was 150 EC dollars. The reason
Prime Minister, can you clarify that for once and for all?
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Yes.
I subsequently I'm hearing about 150 US. Nobody told me about 150 US first. And my mind couldn't be at 150 US because we are paying to keep the Cubans a number around 150 EC.
Okay.
And we have made arrangements with Giddy Brown to house our own persons if we have to work at the isolation unit for a similar number.
Mm.
So I couldn't agree. We couldn't have that and then saying 150 US.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Okay.
I could see somebody telling me, well, they wanted to get 100 US. But I will consider in the circumstances that if anybody is asking, I'm again in trouble with those who are I will get in trouble with those who would open their hotels. But 150 US, even when the cruise ship paying, can't, look man, these are our nationals.
So Prime Minister, the negotiated amount is 150 EC. That's what you say?
100. This is the number which Bishen told me, and this was the number I was informed was put to Federico.
Yes. Okay. Thanks for that clarification.
Subsequently, in fact, Camilo told me that someone said the number is 150 US. So one of the hoteliers. I said, well, that's news to me. You can't ask for $400 in a time like this.
Yes.
Your hotel is closed. Huh? That can't be reasonable. By the way, there are a number of hoteliers who don't want to accept them, you know. And others do.
Mm-hmm.
Some who don't want to accept them for whatever reasons, I don't know. One can surmise, I don't know. As far as I am concerned, and all my conversations with Bishen from the very beginning, 150 EC dollars.
Okay.
Okay? For accommodation and 3 meals. Now, that is very bare bones. If anybody is coming afterwards, if they want to put it up, the hoteliers, I can't tell them what to do. But I'm talking about what I was told from the beginning.
Prime Minister, we are told that there are some Caribbean countries which charge as much as 250.
More.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the only one which had said that they will bring them in, they will pay for them, is St. Lucia, because the St. Lucia number is small.
Yes.
I don't know, I think St. Lucia has about 30 or so persons.
Okay.
Now, if that was the number and that created something, I would make a fuss over it.
Yes.
As a practical matter now.
Yes, yes.
Look, we have a government quarantine facility with about, when I say government, somewhere where we rented.
Yes.
And about 30 rooms or thereabouts, I'm told. And we have another place where we haven't moved anybody in, where has about 40 rooms. But we don't have, the government of itself doesn't have the facility to house these numbers. And it is unreasonable for anybody to expect that the government will pay for these, to pay for the accommodation. Because, in fact, even in the United States of America, where you're disembarking persons who are either obtaining medical care or who are persons who are ill or infected persons on board the ship, that it is the cruise line they're asking to pay for anything like this, not the disembarking crew members to obtain medical care. Cruise lines are responsible for the medical care of ill or infected persons on board, including those who need hospitalization. I'm talking about those who need hospitalization when they come off now.
Yes, yes.
Because they go on to say, for crew who need emergency medical attention that cannot be provided aboard the ship, cruise line should coordinate with the shoreside healthcare facility, the CDC quarantine station having jurisdiction for the port, U.S. Coast Guard, the state, and local health departments and other government officials. And all of this is to be paid for by the cruise ships. In fact, it is pointed out inside of it that you mustn't, the cruise, none of the local or state authorities in the United States is to bear any of these costs. So you say, no cost to be borne there, but we must bear it. Look, in any event, and I don't want to go there, I have been advised in relation to certain conventions, including the Maritime Labor Convention of 2006 and its amendments, that, and in the circumstances, that is the business for the cruise ships. But the cruise ships have not said, the persons we are dealing with haven't said that they must look for somewhere, you know. I saw because Vincentian dealing with Federico from the beginning, has been looking for these rooms. In fact, Vincent was saying to me at first, he said, Pierre, you look as though we have a problem, we won't get enough rooms. No, the Ministry of Health, you may say, well, why you can't put them all inside of their own homes? The Ministry of Health is very concerned. And both Roger Duncan and the Medical Officer of Health and Simone Kiza Beach of these two esteemed medical doctors, Simone the CMO, they said, we just do not have the resources to have 300, 400, because the number could go up to 1,000, to screen them. To put them in quarantine all over the place. Bearing in mind what I gave you the backdrop about somebody who was asymptomatic, two persons who were asymptomatic from cruise ships, who tested positive, and who recently again, after 3 and 4 times, tested positive again. Huh? So they're saying, and I agree with them, if we can get 3 or 4, we don't have a hotel to hold 200 people, 100, you know what I mean? We let's put them out in a few places and hotels and guest houses. So we can properly deal with that, including the security. Look, I'll tell you this. The hotelier who is dealing with the Cubans, I had told that hotelier that the VAT remains on it, and we will, that they will get the refund on the VAT, because they don't want to complicate it with 16 Cubans, the persons whom we have now.
Yes.
But I told Edmund Jackson that if it's 300 of them who come, we'll waive the VAT. And Vincentian had even told them that he will take care of internal transportation. Vincent said, PM, if they need to pay for security, he said, we at the Port Authority will pay for the security too. I said, well, Vincent, you're being generous. So we're taking up part of the tab,
Yes, yes.
I want this thing to be settled amicably. They are Vincentians. Citizenship is valuable. Our passport means something to us. That's why I ain't selling it. And I want the persons who are there on the cruise lines to know that I, Ralph Gonsalves, will fight for them to come back on the best terms. Remember, when these persons are recruited to go away, they don't get recruited through us, That's private arrangement. Yes. When I say through us, through the government.
Yes.
The persons who go on the contract to pick fruits, done through the OECS labor system in Canada, or when they do it in the US, our labor department is involved. Directly as former labor commissioner who is on your program, they knows.
Yes.
But this attempt to play politics and begin by saying that we are demanding $150 US payment per head.
Foolishness.
Then I heard now that Captain Zini said that currently they are considering coming by vessel. Good. Let's say they are coming by vessel. Let's think of this properly. You think they're going to send a big vessel here? I'm not talking about Oasis of the Seas, which is 6,000 or something passengers. You think they're going to send a vessel which can hold 3,000 passengers? Park up in St. Vincent with 300 Vincentians aboard?
No.
They may want to drop off along the way. What are they going to do? Spend 2 weeks in every place to drop off 15? And then I heard somebody say, well, okay, if it's money they want. Some ordinary sailors don't realize that we are defending their interests, trying to make it appear as though we are working against them. We're working for them. And typically, you have some people, you want to pull down your own.
Yes.
and say, well, the cruise line is this, the cruise line is that, it's taking such great care of them, and so on and so forth. That's not what a number of them sending and telling me, You hear me? But I'm not getting involved in all of that.
Right.
Because I want to keep a good relationship with the cruise lines for when we are finished with all of this. This is why we are being so reasonable in the government.
Mm-hmm.
But when somebody says that when they come in the harbor and they stay two weeks in the harbor and they leave, that they just walk off. Well, there's a public health act, I don't know if people think that this country is not a banana republic, Huh? The medical authorities would decide. I didn't hear Dr. Friday, but I'll be amazed if he says they come to the harbor and let them just walk off and go home. Look, the majority of people in this country don't want, and I know person may criticize me for this, don't want the seafarers to come home, They say, let them stay where they are. And I have said to people very early, no. We have to help to bring them home.
Of course.
Of
course.
And I know there are people listening to me and say, Ralph, all what you're going through there with the twists and turns which is happening, why are you continuing with this thing? I said, because they are our nationals.
Yeah.
I have friends among the cruise ship operators. I have lots of supporters among the seafarers. But I'm asking the journalists to be very honest. And even when they write an honest story, write an honest headline, man.
That's right.
Because some people only read headlines.
And the journalists, they know that. And that's
not only here. When I saw the headline in the Jamaica Observer, somebody asked me, I said, well, it's CMC. I said, Kenton is the man down here doing CMC.
Yes.
This is the first time I've spoken in this way in relation to the reportage publicly about, well, I mentioned Kenton's name in this regard. Because the story said basically what I said. But the headline that government denies. There was no occasion to deny. I said, if they don't follow the protocol, they would be denied.
Prime Minister, we have exhausted our time by far.
Well, I suspect that you're not exhausted.
But I would want to say though, I hope we could soon come back to discussing issues, developmental issues, projects and so on.
Well, I would love that too. I mean, by the way, I don't know if you know this. You know the track is on the ground in Vincentian, the track came in.
Oh, it is. Maybe that's why they're speeding up the walk, so walking nights and so on.
The track is in, and we should be starting the track pretty soon.
It's a lovely project. It's really good.
And last week, we paid, as P. John will know, we paid your salary without a murmur. P. John?
Yes.
and Lancewood, we paid your pension without a murmur. you know?
Yes.
And my salary went to the bank on a timely basis too.
Well, I would imagine everybody in Parliament, I would imagine.
Yes. And everybody, and the under 150 workers and farmers in the iron industry.
Okay.
It's over $500,000 we paid out for them in a narrow geographic area, Sandy Bay. Oh, you fancy?
Okay.
Something else there?
Yes.
In this hard guava crop.
Yeah.
Where our revenues are falling.
Mm-hmm.
In the month of April, I haven't got the final number yet, but it's a number around 20%. It's a big number.
Well, maybe next time we talk, Prime Minister, on the program, we could talk about some of those things that you've done in the stimulus package and how you were thinking ahead.
We good, but I really hope I don't have to come back again with this issue about our seafarers.
Well, we hope so.
By the way, in relation to the students,
yes,
I've been in touch with Ambassador John in relation to Cuba, and I've been in touch with our Consul General, Pambaba.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, your Honorary Consul Pambaba in Jamaica. I got Pambaba said to me that the parents are willing to pay for their children to come home, their offspring to come home. I know many of them would be able to pay, some may not be able to pay. You know,
I think some have up on return tickets. Some may have gone up on return tickets too.
Yeah, but you went up on a return ticket on Cal. What you coming on back on?
Okay.
That's
true.
Liat, I reached out to Liat, and they sent to charter the flight is $101,000 US, but they said they'll give a discount of 25%. Well, just over 25%, so it costs $75,000 US.
Okay.
But they can take only 56 passengers out of the 70, and take 50 pounds of each of them, 50 pounds luggage. I sent that information to Pambaba, I think on Thursday. I haven't heard back anything. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Some students have contacted me. They're in a quandary. They want to come home. Those who have exams now, including final exams,
yes.
If they come home now, how are they going to get back up to do some exams where for particular subjects they may be able to write the exams down here? I don't know. Those arrangements have been made by them, but some would have to go up there for their exams. So it's a complicated business, eh?
Yes.
It's not simple.
And Prime Minister, we have to thank you for your leadership.
God bless. Yeah.
And also for the fact, I recognize, and I'm sure others recognize, that the kind of management that you're doing on this whole thing has to be strategic. And it's working out.
We have a lot of information.
Yes.
There are more things I could talk about in relation to the sailor thing, you know.
Yes.
But I'm trying to keep myself focused.
Yes.
And not getting put off with sideshows.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks a lot again.
I love them very much.
All right, then. Thanks a lot for calling and for sharing with us.